It's time for Voice of Indie. Your hosts today are Beem Weeks, author, producer, and marketing monster for independent multimedia publisher Fresh Ink Group, and Stephen Gies, author, producer, composer, and publisher for Fresh Ink Group.
All right, happy Wednesday, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Voice of Indie podcast. This is episode number 142. I am your host, Beem Weeks, and with me, as usual, over there in the corner is Stephen Gies. How you doing tonight, Stephen?
Oh, I'm just thrilled to be here. The studio keeps trying to drop me, but I'm determined to be here no matter what.
Congrats. Blasted studio.
Blasted studio. Everything all right up in Michigan?
Everything's all right. You know, last week I talked about the 82-degree weather we were having, and then a few days after that we had snow flurries, and it was 32 degrees, and we were cold all day yesterday and warmed up a little bit today. We'll be warm again tomorrow at 76 for a high, and then I think we drop back down into the 30s again. Going through the weekend. It's
great fun.
Spring in Michigan. Up and down.
So we've been busy as all get out. We've got a whole flurry of books getting ready to come out, like practically a book a week for the next couple of months. And a lot of these are all coming together kind of at the same time. So let's mention a couple of books that we have just previously put out in the past month or so. And I'll start with The Calling Dream by Carlisle Thoms, which is now out there fully for sale. You can order your copies and get them, hardcover, softcover, all ebooks. And he's got a very cool video. We're going to play his commercial during tonight's show, so you'll hear the audio part. I take it back. It's not on the list. We're not going to play The Calling Dream tonight, but get over there to the YouTube channel, Fresh Ink Group YouTube channel, and look for that Calling Dream, the Calling Dream trailer. It is very cool. And it's starting to get a bunch of views, too. So go, Carlisle Thoms.
Yeah, and then we've got How to Paint an American by Andrew McGregor. That's available. Get out to wherever you buy books and grab your copy. This is a really cool book. It's a novel, and I've read it already, and I highly recommend it.
Now, that one has a staggered release. If you go order the ebook now, you can get it immediately. If you want to print, no, it's the opposite. If you order a print book now, they'll ship it to you immediately. If you want the ebooks, there's going to be a couple more weeks before those are released.
Yeah. Darned Amazon.
I'm telling you.
All right, so this past week, our good friend Verwayne Greenhoe was a guest on Kim Cox's blog. She did an interview with him, and the quickest way to find that interview is to go to beamweeks.wordpress.com, and it's right there. I reblogged it, and Stephen reblogged it on his. Go to stephengies.com, and you can go over there and click on that, and you can click through to Kim's blog, and really interesting interview, a fun interview, a pretty poignant interview. So
yeah, very in-depth, too. I mean, Kim does excellent interviews, and she gets into it, so it's not just a quick fluff piece.
Yeah. Now, listeners, if you want to join in on tonight's program, you can do it two ways. You can call in and ask your questions or say your comments, or you can do it over on Twitter, and here's a little more on how you can do that.
Call 516-453-9902 right now with your questions or comments for tonight's guest, or post a note on Twitter with hashtag Fresh Ink Group in the body of the tweet, and we'll read it on air. That's 516-453-9902 or hashtag Fresh Ink Group on Twitter.
Yeah. All right.
Be there.
Now, Fresh Ink Group, our publishing company, which hosts Voice of Indie blog and Voice of Indie podcast and a lot of other Voice of Indie things, hired a new accounting person, and we're setting up some new systems and stuff because we're getting to where we have so many authors, so many titles, and so many sales that it's getting harder and harder to keep track of with the old system that we had. Boy, that's a tough problem to have. So I spent the entire day today sitting in an office looking at screens and watching numbers go by and trying to keep my head from spinning. And one interesting thing that happened while I was doing that was we were downloading Amazon Kindle sales. the ebooks that we sell only specifically through Amazon. We also sell Nooks through Barnes & Noble. We sell Kobos through Rakuten. We sell through Google Play. We've got like 212 different retailers that we sell different formats of ebooks through, but we were looking specifically at the Amazon Kindles. And as the numbers were coming by, a really big number jumped out, and that was Submariner, which right now is our bestseller juggernaut. We get these from time to time, and we thoroughly enjoy it when this happens, where we get a book that's riding high for several months. And Submariner's doing that. So when that number for Submariner Kindle sales came out, the woman who's helping me set up this system said, "Oh, wow, that book's doing really well." And I said, "Yeah, right now it's our number one bestseller." And then another book popped up with bigger numbers than Submariner on Kindle sales, and completely surprised me. So I called the author this afternoon, and we talked about it, and she thoroughly enjoyed the fact that Gwen M. Plano's Redemption, A Father's Fatal Decision, is out there moving very well in the Kindle category right now. I'll have to go look at print sales at some point here and see what's going on, but congratulations, Gwen M. Plano.
Congratulations, Gwen.
Yeah, you sunk the submarine. It may just be temporary, and there's certainly nothing wrong with being in that number 2 slot for a week or two or whatever. But, yeah, that was pretty cool. Redemption, A Father's Fatal Decision by Gwen M. Plano. And that has a very cool trailer in the Fresh Ink Group channel over on YouTube. Go check that out, too.
Yeah. And speaking of submarines, Operation Whiteout, a Mac McDowell mission by Robert G. Willis-Croft. The audiobook is out. It is available, and it is really cool. I did some work on that, and I can vouch for it. Excellent book, excellent story. So wherever you buy audiobooks, get over there and get them. Now, speaking of Robert G. Willis-Croft, he's got a comment here on Twitter. He said, we're expecting a blizzard tonight. So there you go, out there in Colorado. Yeah, we're not expecting a blizzard. We're just expecting cold weather here in Michigan. And after 6 days of upper 70s and lower 80s, it's kind of a bummer to dip back into that cold.
Yeah, here in Alabama, the only time we get blizzards is when I stop at Dairy Queen.
Yeah. All right, listeners, we do have a newsletter, and you can get all kinds of cool information through our newsletter. Our guy, Sam, he's always hard at work on this, stays up late. He's a college kid, and he still manages to get this newsletter done in the emails every Wednesday morning. So hey, sign up for him. You can find out what books are coming out when, who's going to be on this program, and all kinds of cool indie author stuff and just general information, entertainment stuff. So here's how you can sign up for that.
Stay on top of these podcasts and all things Fresh Ink Group with our weekly digital newsletter, new releases, videos, stories, excerpts, interviews, and more. Sign up now on the homepage of freshinkgroup.com and be the one who knows what's what.
What? Yeah. Now, normally we get to this segment and I tell you what the top 5 print bestsellers have been this week from Fresh Ink Group so far, and I'm going to try switching things up. Because it seems like every week I do that, and then I hear from at least 2 or 3 of our authors wanting to know, mine was in number 7, right? If you'd have got to, top 10, then mine would have been in there, right? But you never know. So tonight I'm going to read the top 25, and I'm going to try to race through them a lot quicker than I've been doing. And I want you to notice a couple of things, hardcovers versus soft covers, because the conventional print-on-demand publishing wisdom for a long time has always been that hardcovers always sell just a very small fraction of the soft covers. And we're finding books where the hardcovers outsell the soft covers. And it's happening so much now that I'm not quite as surprised as I used to be. But, man, I was really just amazed at first. And I want to mention one other trend that I noticed while we were crunching numbers today. Our catalog at Fresh Ink Group, which is several hundred titles, about 240 now, I think, something like that, is about 20% biography and autobiography. Wow. It accounts for 48% of our sales. So biography and autobiography are selling. They're selling like crazy right now. Now, we have one ringer in there, Mark Herndon's The High Road, which we published in 2016 and is still usually one of our best sellers week after week after week after all these years. And we're expecting that to take off again this summer when Mark is all over the news and has some big things happening.
New music, too.
Yeah, and that's kind of interesting, very interesting, because I personally would have told you 10 years ago that nonfiction in the publishing industry is going to drop drastically with the rise of the Internet. I mean, why do you buy a how-to book when you can just go to the Internet and Google how-to, and there will be 100 sources there for those kinds of things? But that doesn't hit memoir, which is biography and autobiography, or prescriptive self-help, or things like that as well. So there are categories out there in nonfiction that are taking off. And those of you who are thinking, yeah, I've written a few novels, now I've been thinking about writing my memoir, maybe it's time to think hard. All right, let's race through this list. The top 2 slots belong to Submariner, 30 Years of Hijinks and Keeping the Float, by retired Naval Lieutenant Commander Jerry Pate, and compiled by science fiction and thriller madman Robert G. Welliscroft. And that book is doing great. The paperback is outselling the hardcover about 5 to 1. 5 to 1. So every time he's selling a hardcover, now he's selling 5 paperbacks. That number was closer to even, and there was a couple of weeks in there where he was selling more hardcovers than softs. So that's still a very expensive book. It's 60 chapters. It's a lot of pages. And I believe the hardcover's priced like $36, $37, something like that. And they're still selling. People want them. So that's a cool thing. Now, in the number 3 slot, the book that we just released last week, How to Paint an American, by Andrew McGregor. And the paperback edition is doing real well. I'll have to work my way down the list to see if the hardcover made the top 25. In the next slot, Shipwrecked and Rescued, The City of Bangor, by retired journalist and historian Larry Jorgensen, who also has some cool books about the origins of the Coca-Cola Company and stuff that we did not publish. But, hey, he's one of our guys, and we're trying to help him sell all of his books. So check out Larry Jorgensen, and especially Shipwrecked and Rescued, The City of Bangor. In the next slot, this one's a hardcover book, outselling a softcover, How to Teach Driving, Parents Edition, by Kenneth Lindquist. So apparently parents who want to learn about, how to make sure their young people in their family are good, safe drivers, they want a book that's durable, that's sturdy, that stays on the shelf so that when the younger kids get a little bit older, they pull that thing down and go again. How to Teach Driving, Parents Edition, by Kenneth Lindquist. Now, paperback edition of B.A. Johnson's Sassy Discovers the AME Church is next in line here. And that is the first of the 2-book series that she's written so far about Sassy and the AME Church. This one is the paperback edition. The second book is out right now, and that is sparking more sales of the first book. And this is something that I've been telling our authors for as long as we've been doing this. The best way to sell your first book is to put out your second one. And the best way to sell those first 2 is to put out your third, because now you have a catalog. Now when you find a reader who likes you, and that reader's saying, what else has this person got? You've got something. Yeah, as opposed to just not having anything available yet. So we always see gooses in sales of earlier books when we put out a new book by an author. So Sassy Discovers the AME Church right now is doing very well, and it's the first book in the series. Now, How to Start and Run Your Own Food Truck Business in Florida, by A.K. Wingler. Paperback edition is next on the list. After that, we mentioned earlier Gwen Plano. Gwen M. Plano, who we published her book Redemption. We've also published the second and third book in her contract series thriller. And we republished her first book, which was the memoir, Letting Go Into Perfect Love, Discovering the Extraordinary After Abuse. And right now, the paperback edition of that republish is making our list. And oh, look, How to Paint an American, the hardcover. Wow. Okay, that's the book we released last week. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. He's in the number 9 slot with a hardcover edition. So take that, people who think you can't sell hardcover editions of novels. Andrew McGregor is proving you wrong.
Yeah.
Now, Shipwrecked and Rescued, hardcover edition is next. And we just talked about the softcover edition, and he's only 2 difference. The difference between his softcover and his hardcover sales is 2 copies right now. So he's about neck and neck even with selling as many hards as he does softs. That should tell us something. Now, next is one that I haven't seen on the list much lately, and that's Vladimir Kalixti's Naked and Transparent, 6 Vital Tools for Knowing Yourself and Attracting Healthy Relationships. That's prescriptive self-help. That's how to make your relationships successful. And she's made the list with her hardcover edition, outselling the soft. Wow, this is kind of cool. Janelle A. Jordan is next. Still Not Enough, Minority Millennials in the Workforce. That's the paperback edition. And we just mentioned earlier The Calling Dream by Carlisle Thoms. So this is the first time this is appearing on this list, and it's the hardcover edition of that novel. And that is a long book. If I remember right, that thing's close to 600 pages. So it's expensive, in the hardcover edition, and it's, quite an undertaking if you really want to read that, and enough people are liking it that they're saying, I got to have the hardcover. That's pretty cool. Now, The High Road, Memories from a Long Trip by former Alabama drummer Mark Herndon. This is the book we published in 2016. It's a perpetual bestseller for us. Mark is always popular, and we're expecting a lot of things to happen this year, so we're looking forward to that. And I can't wait to get the go-ahead to play this new song from Leah Seawright, his wife, who he plays drums with, because it's a very cool song, but it's going to be, there's some really big plans for this song, and it involves major international agencies and things like that, so they get to be the ones to premiere it, and then we get to play it on the podcast after we get to go ahead. So looking forward to that. I think we need to have Mark and Leah back on the show. What do you think, Beem?
I think so. That's an idea.
Right. Next book, Helen Burrell, Dr. Helen Burrell's American Agony, The Opioid War Against Patients in Pain, paperback edition. Now, How to Teach Driving, Behind the Wheel, Lesson by Lesson, Instructor's Edition. We put out 2 books in that series. One is for parents, one is for people who want to become certified instructors. And in this case, it is also the hardcover that's selling the most. So both editions of that are selling more in hardcover than in soft. How to Start and Run Your Own Food Truck Business in Georgia, as opposed to the Florida one, as opposed to the Tennessee one, by A.K. Wengler. Paperback edition is next. And then this is a fun one to see, Fresh Ink Group Short Story Showcase #1, edited by me, which includes 54 stories from a contest that we ran a while back, many, many years ago, and we found a couple of real cool authors with this. This is a wonderful collection of stories. What a wide variety of genres and ideas and concepts and writing styles. It's just a lot of fun. Go check it out. Here's another one that's very important. This one is raising money for ovarian cancer research. It's called Outshine, an ovarian cancer memoir, 2nd edition by Karen Ingalls. Karen published a version of this book in 2012 herself, and then she came to us and wanted to do an update, so we republished it as a 2nd edition. She's added another chapter, a lot of new resources, new information, updated a lot of stuff that was in it, and we're happy to see that that has made our top 25 print bestseller list. Now, I mentioned The Calling Dream by Carlisle Thoms in hardcover. Next on the list is the same book in paperback, so he's selling both editions. Now, here's a fun one, J. Ash Looney. And I'll bet you would not guess which one of J. Ash Looney's book is his bestseller right now, Beem. Don't even try. No, don't even try.
No, one of the word books.
That's why I thought you wouldn't get it. Adventures in Leninland. An intrepid journalist's quest to understand a place once called the Soviet Union. That's a cool book. J. Ash Looney traveled to the Soviet Union, spent some time over there, and was doing some journalistic reporting, and he collected a whole bunch of things. And then all these years later, he wrote this book about his adventure and a lot of amazing insights about Russia, Russian life, Russian culture, and all that. Adventures in Leninland by J. Ash Looney. Okay, we're back to Outshine, an ovarian cancer memoir, 2nd edition again, paperback. The one that was 3 slots up was the hardcover. So there's another example of the hardcover book outselling the paperback. Here we are, Redemption, A Father's Fatal Decision, which, as we know, doing very well on Kindle. That's by Gwen M. Plano, and that's a thriller novel. It's a very cool story. It's getting great reviews. Everybody loves it. Next, Sassy Uncovers Peter Allen's Secret by B.A. Johnson. And this one is the newest book in the Sassy series, and it's the hardcover that's outselling the soft. And then finally, last in our top 25, Mary Schmidt's Sammy, Hero at Age 5. And this is the poignant memoir telling the story about her son, who at age 5 was diagnosed with pediatric brain cancer, and ultimately had to go through quite a bit of ordeal, him, the family, and all the stuff that's involved in that, and then they lost Sammy. And so it's not a happy ending, but it's a poignant memoir that really opens up the lives of these people and what they went through. And if you've got an ounce of empathy, you can't read this book without feeling, what they had to endure, and you can learn from it. There's a lot of philosophy in it, whatnot. So congratulations, Mary Schmidt. Sammy Hero at age 5 has made our top 25 print bestseller list. And that's
all right. Congratulations to each of those authors. The listeners, if you missed an episode of this show, we have an archive, and here's how you can find those archive links.
Find your favorite show in the Voice of Indie archives on YouTube at Fresh Ink Group, StephenGees.com, BeamWeeks.com, FreshInkGroup.com, and on Spotify. And now you can listen on iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, and tune in. Just search The Voice of Indie, all one word.
In the wake of September 11th, a man who grew up with his mother in Eastern European brothels comes to New York City searching for an adventure, identity, and home. The USA has other plans for him, though. It'll give him what he wants for a price. A series of imposed quests drives our beleaguered hero through America's dark heart, from New York to Boston to a Walmart on the outskirts of Atlanta, where he finds and spreads damnation and salvation while working the night shift. Published worldwide by Fresh Ink Group, grab your copy of Andrew McGregor's How to Paint an American in jacketed hardcover, softcover, and all ebook formats. How to Paint an American.
Get it today. All right. So we have a guest, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about him.
All right.
Martin Herman was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York, and currently lives in Bloomfield, Connecticut. For almost half a century, he led a series of startups and troubled mature businesses back to profitability. Although he has written and published articles and short stories under a series of pen names since his early teens, it was not until he approached his 75th birthday that he published his first full-length mystery novel. He currently has a total of 10 mystery and historic novels, thrillers, short stories, and a biography of a legendary jazz musician in print. In each of his novels, he blends real people, places, and events with his own imaginative characters and storylines. By creating interesting characters and gently placing them into interesting situations, he has built a wide readership from young readers, young teens, to seniors. Before the pandemic, Mr. Herman taught writing at UConn in the Waterbury, Connecticut campus as part of the OLLI program. He believes that everyone has an interesting story to share and has been on a mission to help bring those stories to print. Welcome to the show, Martin Herman.
Hey, Martin.
I'm delighted to be here.
All right.
So, born and raised in Brooklyn, and now you're in Bloomfield, Connecticut. What's the road from Brooklyn to Bloomfield, and where else have you lived?
I've worked all over the country and in many parts of the world, but I was brought up to Bloomfield to help turn a company around, and I really liked the area, and so I bought a home, and I've been here now for almost 24 years.
Yeah, I was going to say it must have been a while because the Brooklyn accent has faded quite a bit. You sound a bit more Connecticut now.
None of those, what are you doing, man?
Yeah. So what kind of a kid were you, Martin? Were you into reading and writing from an early age, or is this something that got you interested later in life? Did you focus mostly on business for a long time, and now you're having fun? What's going on with this?
Well, I think a little bit of all of the above. I had a sixth grade teacher who turned me on to writing, and I have been selling short stories since eighth grade. She felt that I could tell an interesting story, and when I went home and told it to my mother, who thought that the world began and ended with me, she just laughed and said, "You don't want to be a writer." Well, I have fun with it each and every day.
Have you dedicated a book to Mom?
Actually, I have not. I have in the very one of my books. I use her name and her father's name and her mother's name liberally within the various characters.
Yeah, that actually does it. I've done that with a couple of people over the years, and just use their name in a book, and they're just happy with it. I mean, that's better than a dedication to them. Look, and then you turn them into the murderer at the end or something like that.
I wouldn't dare.
Yeah. So
now,
over on Twitter, you got Verwayne Greenhoe congratulating Gwen, which was very cool, and boasting that it's 83. Where he is. There's 82 in Alabama, so, he says he doesn't know how, but they make it through the day. All right, go ahead.
Yeah, Dr. Helen's got one up there, too.
Yeah, I was holding that one.
Oh, okay.
That one's a question for the author.
Okay. Well, my question is, now here in your bio, Martin, it says that you taught writing at UConn, and I'm guessing you've got a degree of your own. So what's your education background like?
Well, I've been writing most of my life, and I went to Brooklyn College. I did not graduate. I kind of left real early and went into business.
All right. Well, that's worked for a lot of people. So
Did you go into working with other people's businesses, or did you start your own? What was that process?
By the time I was 14, I had a candy bagging business, literally door to door. I think the last time I counted, there were about 18 or 19 different kinds of businesses that I either worked in or started until I was 20, and then I started working for larger companies. My goal was to run a piece of business by the time I was 25, and I missed it by about 6 months.
Wow.
Well, you sounded, motivated. If at 14 you had your own candy bagging business, that's, being motivated and, being an entrepreneur at that young age.
Sounds like Mark Cuban.
Yeah.
Which, his story ended badly. Yeah. $5.3 billion. Yeah, so
he seems to be enjoying it as well, which is wonderful.
Yeah, and sharing it, which is very cool too, and helping others and doing a lot of stuff. But so apparently you don't like the word retired.
I think it's the worst word in the human choice of words. I can't imagine ever stopping. And what do you do then? I never really had a hobby. I never enjoyed golf, or I just enjoy business. I think it's really just another way of saying life.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
All right.
So you're married? Have kids?
Yes. I have 2 daughters and 2 grandchildren.
All 4 of them
any
writers.
of them right?
Actually, my daughter has had several poetry books out, and she and I wrote a book of short stories.
Well, you can plug it if you want.
Yeah, let's hear her name and a title. Let's sell some books.
Title, yeah.
Her name is Amy Herman, Aimee. She has a current book out called Everything Grows. It's about coming out and about bullying, and I can tell you it has been doing quite well. It's created its own readership among both people who were bullies and now see how much harm they can create and kind of try to stop. And those who have been bullied and begin to realize, it's not my fault, it's their fault. And you just have to live the best life you can. But
what's the audience? Is that like a young adult book?
It is a young adult book, but I have it on my website, and we've been getting an awful lot of, nothing's awful, but a wonderful lot of sales through senior centers. It looks like bullying is not a a young person's problem only anymore.
No.
It's anywhere there's a group of people.
Yeah.
So the book is Everything Grows, and she's an excellent writer. Currently, she teaches special needs children in Colorado, and she's just a very special young lady. I think both of my daughters are very special in different ways.
Oh, that's cool. We are obviously not very proud of them, sure. That's Amy Herman. A-I-M-E-E-E. No, I said 3 E's. A-I-M-E-E Herman, and Everything Grows. So get out there and check that out.
And you can find that at martinhermanauthor.com, I believe.
Absolutely.
Oh, that's cool. So why don't we roll a commercial?
She also wrote a book of short stories. It's almost 24 short stories. It's called A Very Special Dress.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
I like short stories.
Yeah, definitely.
I like reading them. I like writing them. All right.
They're a challenge.
Yeah.
So let's hear about Mark Herndon.
All right.
What drives a man to spend 26 years performing night after night? To persevere through a stifling tour bus, bad food, strange women, flared tempers, a plane nearly blown from the sky. Just how did that troubled military brat with a dream claw his way from dirt floor dive bar shows to the world's biggest stages? Aviator, author, and country music Hall of Fame drummer Mark Herndon lived that dream playing with Alabama, one of the most popular and celebrated bands of all time. He learned some hard lessons about people and life, the music industry, the accolades and awards, how easy it is to lose it all, and how hard it is to survive, to embrace sobriety, to live even one more day. Herndon's poignant memoir offers a tale at once cautionary and inspirational, delightful and heartbreaking, funny yet deeply personal. From innocence to rebellion to acceptance, can a man still flourish when the spotlight dims? Are true forgiveness, redemption, and serenity even possible when the powerful say everything you achieved somehow doesn't even count? That you're not who you and everyone who matters thought you were? Find all this and more in Mark's remarkable memoir, The High Road, Memories from a Long Trip, proudly published by Fresh Ink Group in paperback and ebooks, and now in the keepsake dust-jacketed hardcover edition demanded by true fans. Mark Herndon refuses to slow down, so look back, look ahead, and join him on the trip. He's taking the high road.
All right, now here's a teaser for you. Remember that line where it says a tour plane nearly blown from the sky? Drummer Mark Herndon was flying that plane when that happened. Whoa, that means you're going to have to go get that book, read about that, and see what that's all about.
All right. We have a couple callers if you want to take some calls.
Let's go.
Sure.
All right. The first one here is going to be from Manhattan. We know who this is. Hello, Manhattan. You're on the air.
You mean me?
Yeah.
Hi, Helen.
Hi, Helen.
Oh, yeah, hi. How are you guys?
Doing well.
I wrote my questions there so you can answer them for me, okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
But you want to go ahead and ask since we've got you on?
Yeah, well, I would be interested in your process, writing process. Did it ever come difficult, or has it always been flowing, or what?
I don't think I've ever had a moment where I couldn't get to the next sentence, but I cheat. I usually work on 2 or 3 books at the same time. One is for research. One is the one that I'm going to be releasing that particular year. And one is just the beginnings of creating the premise. And so if I sit down to write and I'm hitting what do I do next, I just go to the next one or the next one. So I've never really had writer's block. And I have another trick that I like to use, which is when I'm all done, I'll start a sentence and stop in the middle of the sentence so that when I come back to it, all I do is pick up the sentence, and usually that moves me along. But what I like to do is start with the character. I like to create characters that are well-rounded. I try to know as much as I can about the characters I use, and that way you don't tend to put them in situations where they're uncomfortable and where the storyline becomes less than interesting. I hope that helps.
Yeah.
That's why I used to tell people, have more than one typewriter, and you have three if you can, and you could be working on different stories or an article or anything on the different typewriters you write, and when you're stuck, you can go to the other thing. Sounds great, your process.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for calling in again tonight, Dr. Helen.
Yeah, and
love you guys. Have a nice soiree.
Yeah, we're going to leave you on the line so you can keep listening, Helen.
Okay.
All right. So you got any more callers, Beem?
Yeah, we do. We got another New York caller. Hello, caller. You're on the air. What's your name? Hello, caller.
Oh, hello. Yes, hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, we can.
Oh, hello. Gosh. All right.
What's your name?
Hello. My name is Amy. And Marty, I'm calling because I have the greatest dad in the world, and it happens to be Martin Herman.
Yeah,
all right.
That's not Amy with 3 E's. That's Amy with 2 E's.
No, with 2 E's. Hi, Cutie. How you doing?
Hello. I actually have a question, which I think is, so often we are pushed on a certain path of, like, you graduate high school, you go to college, you get a job, and then you choose a career path that is your forever path. And I think that my dad is such an incredible example of someone who has chosen so many paths. So I guess my question is, what can you say to someone who feels like it's too late? I've made these decisions. This is what I am. It's too late to have a second, third, fourth act.
Wow.
Oh, it's never too late. Colonel Sanders started, I think he was 65 or 66. I published my first full novel. I was not quite 75. I can tell you about numerous people who all of a sudden their day job they are retired from, and I guess you can just golf so much, you can just go on so many vacations, and at some point you say, now what do I want to do that makes me happy? And so as long as you can breathe and walk around, there's still hope.
Yeah. We have a lot of authors at Fresh Ink Group who didn't even start writing until they were retired from their day jobs, as it were.
Yeah.
That was a great answer. Thank you so much.
Yeah. And good luck on the book sales, Amy. You didn't expect to hear your dad plug in your book tonight, did you?
I did not.
Yeah.
But that's the kind of person he is.
Yeah, and that's the kind of podcast we have too. We try to give credit to everybody and help everybody, because when the sea rises, all the ships come up with it too. So, congratulations on your success, and maybe we'll look forward to having you on the podcast when your next book comes out.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. Have a good night. Thank you.
Good night.
Right,
Good night. Thanks for calling in, honey.
Yeah.
Love you.
So, any more callers?
Nope, that's it.
You want to take Joe Consol's question on Twitter?
Let's see if we can't find it. I mean, click this here refresh button, and there he is.
Just above Helen.
Yeah, he said, "Hi, Martin. A non-writing question. What's your favorite Brooklyn pizza joint?" Now we're talking. Pizza talk.
I never thought I would say this, but I think I'm having better pizza here in Connecticut than even in New York. I live in Bloomfield, and there's a great little pizza place here in town. But my lovely Laura loves pizza, and so we tend to have have it quite often wherever we are. And I hate to say this as a Brooklyn-born, but there are plenty here in Connecticut.
Well,
wow.
it's that East Coast thing. East Coast, pizza up and down the East Coast. There's some really good pizzas there.
Yeah.
It's not like California where they put like cream and chunks of chicken and all weird stuff that's not even pizza on it. But
I can't understand that.
I can't.
Yeah, I'm gonna put in my little pizza pitch. Usually the big debate is, Chicago pizza versus New York pizza, what's cool. And my attitude has always been Chicago pizza's for when you go to Chicago, New York pizza's for when you go to New York. But if you want to talk about a city that shapes the pizza industry, it's Detroit.
Detroit.
Where I grew up, because when I was a kid, I used to go down and get pizza from the first Little Caesars Pizza right there, probably 2 miles from my house, run by the Illiches. And probably 10 miles from my house in Ypsilanti was the very first Domino's Pizza, founded by Tom Monahan. And about 12 miles from my house was the very first, in Taylor, Michigan, was the very first Hungry Howie's Pizzeria, which now has a couple of thousand franchises. I used to own a couple of Hungry Howie's way back in the day. So when you talk about a city shaping the pizza industry, it's Detroit.
And you got Jets that's big right now.
Yeah.
Coming out of Detroit. But pizza, we're talking pizza tonight.
Yeah, we're talking pizza.
Welcome to Pizza Talk.
So, Martin, do you have any other hobbies or interests, ways that you spend your time besides business and writing and raising a wonderful family?
I find interest just in life. There's so much going on. I tend to be really interested in how companies start, how companies flourish, what goes wrong with companies. And to me, that's quite interesting because each one has a life of their own.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's cool. All right, so let's roll another commercial here, and then we got more questions for Martin Herman. And those of you who are interested in calling in, the number is 516-453-9902. Give us a call or head over to Twitter and hashtag Fresh Ink Group your questions or comments for Martin.
All right.
When Karen Ingalls was diagnosed with stage 2C ovarian cancer, she realized how little she knew about what was once called the silent killer. As Ingalls began to educate herself, she felt overwhelmed by the prevalent negativity of cancer. Lost in the information about drugs, side effects, and statistics, Ingalls redirected her energy to focus on the equally overwhelming blessings of life, learning to rejoice in each day and find peace in spirituality. In this memoir, Karen is a calming presence and positive companion, offering a refreshing perspective of hope with the knowledge that the beauty of the soul, the real me and the real you, outshines the effects of cancer, chemotherapy, and radiation. Proudly published by Fresh Ink Group in jacketed hardcover, softcover, and all ebook editions, the new second edition of Outshine, an ovarian cancer memoir, is a story of survival. A reminder that disease is not an absolute, but a challenge to overcome.
All proceeds to ovarian cancer research. That's a good cause. Support that book.
All right. Martin, now in the bio, we kind of mentioned that you wrote stories under your own name and under pen names. So are you currently writing under your own name, and what are some of the pen names that you wrote under, and what's the story behind that?
Well, as I said, I started writing in 8th grade, and I would just open a New York telephone book. They don't even exist anymore. And at random, I would pick a name, and that's what I would send my story in as. And I had a really nice run for a while. I would send a story to 1 or 2 or 3 magazines, because there were so many at the time, and at least one would pick it up. And then in the mail, there would be a check. And I lived in a 5-story building, and everybody's mailbox was downstairs, and there would from time to time be an envelope sticking out of the top where the box is opened for the mailman. And I would always see the name that I have used. And at the beginning, it was difficult to do anything with the checks because I couldn't prove who I was. You make up a name, and now you have to live by it. Some of the checks were $5, which at the time was wonderful. We were paying $37.50 a month rent, so $5 was a lot. And we talked about pizza. In those days, pizza was 15 cents a slice or $1 a whole pie. So $5 was a lot. And as I got older and I started to use names that I were versions of my own name, the checks got larger and larger and larger. But I traveled a lot because of the jobs that I had of turning companies around. And my idea of relaxing, because I never really enjoyed eating in a restaurant alone, was to go to my hotel room with a pint of Haagen-Dazs and, of course, Diet Coke, and I would do my day's correspondence and then write. And when I got home from each trip, I would just put whatever I wrote into this big brown box, and when it filled up, I'd dump it out into the garbage and start all over again because I was only writing for me. One of those short stories became the first novel that I published, which is The Jefferson Files, and it's now in its 11th printing. In fact, we're getting it ready for the 12th printing, and it's interesting how that grows. I now have 7 books in that same series, and now I only write under my name.
That's quite a journey. Now, you told us something when we were talking a couple of days ago that surprised me a lot. You took your books off Amazon. What's that all about?
Yeah. I did not like the look of the book that they had, but what really changed my mind of whether or not I wanted to use Amazon, my small book of short stories that I wrote with Amy was designed to fit in your pocket. And when and I always used to purchase a copy through Amazon to see how the reader was going to get my book. And they didn't ship a pocketbook. What they shipped was my book in a 5x9 or 6x9 format. Well, that's not a pocketbook. And it was the same copy but bigger margins. I just didn't like the look of the book. The book that I like to feel is my book. I have a professional graphic artist who has done all of my covers. I like to choose the paper. I like to make it larger than average print. I just do things with it that I, as a reader, appreciate, and I can't get that from Amazon.
Well,
and,
Martin, let me interrupt a little.
And that was why. And that was why.
What you're describing is publishing through Amazon. Most publishers just sell through Amazon. You're talking about trim size, paper thickness, font size, all that kind of stuff. We control all of that with all of our books, and Amazon has nothing to do with anything. They buy our books through wholesalers, through distributors, and then simply sell them. So you can publish your books elsewhere and then offer them through Amazon. But if you're not offering books for sale through Amazon, you're leaving a lot of potential sales on the table because there's a lot of people that only go to Amazon when they're ready to buy books. So we should talk about that a little bit more. I just wanted to clarify everything you've been describing is publishing through Amazon, not selling through Amazon. But if you go elsewhere, even if you self-publish, you're working with professionals like graphic designers or whatever, give them the specs, and they can put together a book for you that you can self-publish. Or you can take it to like Ingram Spark, for example, and then you have total control of all aspects, and all they're doing is selling it for you.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are many roads to Rome. I have found that this is this is a process that I feel really comfortable with because basically I see every one of my readers as I sign and sell them my book. Through Amazon, I never get even to know who is buying my book. And that is not a positive because I like to build relationships with my readers.
Yeah.
But so now, again, I'm sure there are many positives about a dozen different ways this can be done. I have just found in the last 6 or 7 years, I've gone through probably 28,000 books, and I'm really, really pleased with how it works for me.
So you're mentioning your readers. Who are your readers? I mean, do you have a wide range of ages or a kind of a narrow group or whatever? And, do you
No. I'm very blessed. I imagine most writers start the way I started. You kind of imagine who you're writing for, and I thought I was writing for a 40, 50-year-old woman. And I started getting mail from people in their 70s and 80s, and they would say, my kid sent me your book. They don't know what I read, but I liked it. What else do you have? And now most recently I'm getting book orders and mail from people in their 11, 12, and 13-year range. And they're saying, my grandparents sent me your book. They don't know what I read, but I really liked it. What else do you have? And so now I tend to write for 3 really different readers in the same book, young adult, middle age, and seniors. And they are different readers, but basics are basics. And I get the really most wonderful, warm letters from my readers. I just love it.
All right. So we are going to take a commercial break, and when we come back, we will talk a little bit more to Martin Herman.
More than 6,000 shipwrecks have been recorded on the Great Lakes, but only one offers a true life adventure, like the 1926 rescue of the city of Bangor off the Keweenaw Peninsula in Upper Michigan. A fierce November storm tossed the ship with a crew of 23 and 240 new Chrysler automobiles onto a Lake Superior reef. For the first time, Shipwrecked and Rescued, Cars and Crew tells the near-tragic story of the deep snow and near-zero temperatures. Journalist and historian Larry Jorgensen's detailed research and collection of historical photos chronicles what happened, introduces the key players, and finally reveals the fate of those collectors' prizes in the century since. Proudly published by Fresh Ink Group, Shipwrecked and Rescued is available worldwide in jacketed hardcover, softcover, and all ebook formats.
All right. That is out and available right now. We are talking with Martin Herman, author. And Martin, I'm looking here at your list of books, and here's one that really stands out to me, the Howard Hill story. How did this come about? And it's the thing I find interesting is that this is an American jazz musician from Connecticut, and he played with jazz royalty. And the one name that really jumps out at me, because I'm a big fan, is Billie Holiday. I've got several Billie Holiday CDs, and I'm a metalhead. I'm into heavy metal, but I love Billie Holiday, and I got some of her oldest stuff from the 30s when she was just testing out the studio for the first time. She was arranging her own music in those early days, and I got some of those, and to me, that's some of the best material. How did you come about doing this story on Howard Hill?
Just a special guy. I probably could have finished that book 6 months earlier, and I didn't want to walk away. He was that unique a person, mild-mannered, capable, and he was playing with an 18-piece live orchestra, and the girl singer for that orchestra was my lovely Laura. And that's how I met Howard. And we would talk from time to time, and each time we would talk, he would tell me who he worked with and things that you would only know if you were another musician. And finally, he invited both of us to his 90th birthday party. And I said to him, I want to write your story for your 93rd birthday because it'll take a couple years. And we used to meet mornings. Either he would make breakfast or I would make breakfast. He was a diabetic, as am I, but he loved ice cream. And we went to the most exotic ice cream places here in Connecticut. And we would just talk about his background. And he had an amazing background. He helped build battleships during the Navy. He came into music after he left the Navy, and he worked with just about everyone who was anyone: Ella Fitzgerald, Sammy Davis, Billie Holiday, Nat King Cole. He gave John Coltrane his first paid job. And we were having, you mentioned Lady Day, Billie Holiday. We were having ice cream at a small place. And he said, you treat all the time. Let me pay for it. What flavor do you want? And I said, my favorite is pistachio. And he banged his fist on the table, and he said, you know who really loved pistachio? Ella. Wow. And I the most stupid thing you could possibly ask a musician, Ella who? And obviously he was talking about Ella Fitzgerald. And then he started talking about Billie Holiday. And I said, you must tell me how exciting that was. And he says, if you're a musician, you come, they give you the music, and you really have to be a professional at it. You can't just stare at them and say, I've loved your music all my life. But he said, she was really unique, Billie Holiday. She would walk or be helped to the microphone, and you would think she'll never be able to sing because she's not feeling right or she's not herself today. And he said the minute the first note would be hit, you would see her put her head back and just tuck in the flower in her hair and sing like the birds. And it was stories like that you would only know if you were another musician.
Yeah,
he was
Billie
just
Holiday.
An amazing guy.
Billie Holiday.
And when he was 93, he not only was a featured player with an 18-piece live orchestra, he was a member of a professional bowling league at 93. Just a great guy.
Fantastic. All right, we are going to we're talking to author Martin Herman, and we are going to be right back.
Whether you're a parent or professional instructor, How to Teach Driving, lesson by lesson, shows how to teach fundamental driving in a logical sequence. Instill confidence in your students or family members while helping them practice their skills in a safe setting before they need them on the road. You will practice diagnosing and analyzing driving errors, especially steering errors, so you can explain and correct them before they become dangerous habits. Academy founder Kenneth Lindquist includes a wide variety of tips, such as how to avoid hugging the center line and to take proper seatbelt use seriously. This instructor's edition of How to Teach Driving and its companion Parents Edition are the perfect partners to written guides because they translate the classroom's two-dimensional concepts into three-dimensional skills. Proudly published by Fresh Ink Group, both editions of How to Teach Driving are found everywhere in laminate hardcover, softcover, and all ebook formats. Whether your region requires driving instructor training and certification, or you simply want to be the best at helping beginners learn road safety, this book is the place to start.
All right, so we're on with author and business fixer Martin Herman, and I'm looking at the Jefferson Files here. I'm seeing the Jefferson Files, a historic murder mystery, and then the next one is the Hidden Treasure Files, an international thriller. The Sweet Revenge Files, The Sweet Revenge Files, a psychological thriller. The Return to Sender Files, not whodunit, but why and how. And I understand there's 2 more books in this series, Martin?
Yes, there's a total of 6 right now. I'm finishing the 7th, which will be part of that same series. The protagonist is based on a real person who at the age of 16 was thrown into federal prison for hacking the computer system of the Department of Defense. I came across just a bit of research about him, and I just thought it would be a neat way to solve mysteries. And that series has done quite well.
All right.
Oh, that's cool. So and that's separate from the first Tuesday of the month Murder Files?
Nope, that's part of the same series.
Oh, okay. Well, then I'm seeing 7th book. Do you know where you are? That's not part of the series?
That's not part of the series. In fact,
What's
that's
that about?
The newest mystery that I put out towards the end of last year. It's about the perfect crime, and it's about a young lady who has been planning for the last year and a half of her life the perfect crime, and she thought of everything. So she was convinced she'll never get caught. But there was this little possibility she never considered, and that's what the book is about.
Oh, cool.
All right.
What about A Very Special Dress and Other Short Stories? That's the one that you wrote with Amy, right?
That's the one I wrote with Amy.
Okay.
I wrote about a third of the story. She wrote about a third, and together we wrote about a third. And it was such a delightful process. She's a very creative young lady and very busy, and so it kind of gave us a reason to spend more time together during the writing of the book. And it was just a labor of love.
Oh,
what is
cool.
this? What is the family of charlatans, cheaters, grifters, con men? That sounds like my kind of story. The family Racusco?
It's a historical novel. It follows one family for 10 generations. They're grifters and con men and liars and cheats. I sold one to a woman last weekend, and she said, "You've just described everyone around my Thanksgiving Day table." Well, I guess every family has them. But
yeah, I was going to say you spelled my name wrong.
The most unique love story that holds the family together for 400 years. If
Wow.
I get you to the opening pages, you're not going to put it down.
Well, that sounds like my kind of story there. I like those kind of stories.
Yeah. So Martin, do you get a lot of fan reaction, feedback, fan mail, questions, anything?
I get a lot of mail, and I'm so proud of it. My commitment to my readers is you will get an answer either that day or within the next 24 hours. And so it doesn't matter if I have to be up until 4 in the morning, because I get a lot of mails, and it comes in chunks. And they take my characters very seriously. In the third book, one of my lead characters has to be killed off. And I really tried to find a way that I didn't have to, because it was a wonderful character. But no other way made sense. And it was actually based on, well, not based, but I named it for someone I knew. And he's still alive and wonderful, but this character had to die. And so the mail that came in was just phenomenal. How dare you kill him off? Don't ever do that again. And on and on and on. Finally, I did a talk at the Palace Theater in Waterbury. They had a series of second chapters in your life. And so I was, I think, Mr. October that year. And I told this story about this Bob Schless that unfortunately I had to kill off. And then it turned out Bob and his wife lived really close to Waterbury. They came to see me speak, and I pointed to him and I said, and there he is. By the end of the evening, he was signing books.
Wow.
They get into it. A lot of my, most of my books are real and pretend stitched together. And towards the back of each book, I tell you chapter by chapter what's real, what's not. But I tend to use a lot of real people. And, of course, towards the back of the book, I tell you that he was or she was real. And here's what interested me about them to put them in the book. But they become real characters. I'm having a lot of fun. If you couldn't tell, I'm having a lot of fun.
Well, that's when you write the best stories, is when you're having fun with it. Now, speaking of writing, we've got a lot of up-and-coming authors that listen to this program, whether live or in the archives. What advice do you have to some of these younger authors and even to some of the established authors?
Well, I've gone back to UConn as part of their OLLI program. In fact, I'm in class 6 out of a 10-week course. And one of the things that I talk about is you need to start with characters that you know so intimately, that you know what makes them angry, what makes them sad. Do they carry a grudge? Do they eat breakfast in the morning? Those kinds of things, so that you can put them in a situation that is conducive to who they are. And so first you start with your primary characters, know them all, and then you have the ability to start thinking about, well, who do I go to my casting call for my secondary characters, or even for my background characters. And now you have the basis to say, okay, now let's tell a story using them. And usually that's the process I take. And it becomes very natural. At some point, they write their own story. And as that happens, you really become interested, because I don't know what they're going to say next until they've said it.
That's cool. Now, over on Twitter, we've got a couple more comments from Verwayne Greenhoe. He says, I always have multiple stories going, so if I get jammed up on one story, I just move to a different story. And that's after he said, I work just like Martin. So there you go. You got somebody who works just like you. And Verwayne is also touting Outshine, an ovarian cancer memoir, second edition by Karen Ingalls. He put a link up here and some information about the book. He says that he highly recommends it. He has read it. I highly recommend Karen Ingalls' book, Outshine, an ovarian cancer memoir, second edition. So if you're over on Twitter, check that out, too. Click on it, and you might want to get a copy of that book for somebody.
I read it, and I recommend it as well. So
yep.
There you go.
Yep.
My mother read it, so she would recommend it if she was behind the mic tonight.
Yeah, definitely. So, Martin, what's happening at the Palace Theater next month, which would be May 2023 for you archive listeners?
I'm appearing, and the series is called, I wrote that, and I'll be talking about the newest mystery, which is Do You Know Where You Are? And I always enjoy going there. It'll be my second time. It's just a very warm place to work, and it attracts very literate people in the audience, and the questions you get are very, very thought-provoking. Again, it's just another way of enjoying stuff. The person who puts together special events is Sherry Marcucci. She's just a wonderful woman, just a terrific woman, and she knows how to put a show together. And she knows how to fill a room, and she knows how to bring smiles to the people. I was appearing at the Connecticut Pavilion for Big E, and she bought one of, or maybe two of my books. And the next thing I know is I got a letter from her that said, I'm in charge of special events for the Palace Theater. We're doing second acts, and I wonder if you'd be interested. And that's how that relationship started.
Well, that's cool. So that's the Palace Theater in what city?
In Waterbury, Connecticut.
Okay, and is there an easy place for people to go to get more information in case they want to get some tickets or attend?
Oh, absolutely. If you just pull up the Palace Theater, Waterbury, it's right there.
Okay, great, terrific.
Now, before we let you go, Martin, how can people find you? Where can they find you on social media, blog, website, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter?
Panhandling on corners.
My website is the best place to find me. It's martinhermanauthor.com, one word. I generally have the newest appearances of where I will be, a bit about my books, a little bit about some things that I'm doing, and a bookstore where you can pull down the menu and you can actually buy from the website.
All right.
Cool. Okay, our guest today has been Martin Herman, novelist, business fixer, great dad and granddad, who even has a book of short stories with his daughter. So it's been a pleasure having you on, Martin.
It was my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Now, listeners, next week we're going to have a return visit from author A.G. Fletcher. He's got some new material out there, and he's eager to tell us about it. After that, we've got another return visit, Robert McKenzie. He's just getting ready to release The Chair 3. So tune in. Robert's always a good time. And after that, we've got Andrew McGregor, who wrote How to Paint an American, which we just released this past week and is in pre-sale on the ebook editions and is out there now in the print editions. That's Andrew McGregor, author of How to Paint an American.
Yeah, and after that, we are off for that week, but we do have a repeat encore episode of Jerry Pate coming in to talk about his book, The Submariner book, and that was a fun conversation, a lot of really cool, interesting stories, so tune in, even though it's a repeat, tune in for it, and we'll be back the following week with...
Yeah. After that, we've got Michael Scott Clifton. Now, we don't know Michael real well. We're just learning about his books and whatnot. He co-hosts a writer's podcast with C.J. Peterson, who was a guest on this show just a few weeks ago. So we're looking forward to getting to know Michael and learning more about his books. And then the week after that, we have a new author.
Children's author Janice Toney. She has a book coming out through Fresh Ink Group called Daddy Yo-Yo and the Legendary Marble Tournament, and that is a book, an anti-bully book, and it's like I said, she's a children's author, so we'll get to know her. And after that,
we've got a fascinating character, George Dismukes. He's a novelist who has quite a few books out there. We're putting out a Fresh Ink Group edition of his newest novel called Paradise My Prison. This will be the first time we've published George. We're glad to have him join the team and eager to see him get out there. George is quite a character. He's had a fantastic career. He used to write movies and work with people like John Wayne. He's been a snake milker, a bullfighter. I couldn't begin to tell you all the stuff George has done. So we're going to have him on the show and ask him. Let him tell us about it.
Yeah. After that, we've got Najma Thomas. She's got a book coming out through Fresh Ink Group called As We Remember. This is a African-American historical book. It's loaded with pictures and information, and it is American history. And it's just a fantastic book. So tune in for that. And we will
that's about the Women's Relief Corps. That's being published by Fresh Ink Group on behalf of the University of South Carolina. So we're really looking forward to having Najma on. Okay, listeners, we're going to play one more commercial on our way out, so please stick around for another minute or two. It's been great having you on, George Martin. Get out there, people, and discover books by George Martin and his daughter, Amy.
All right. Thanks to everybody for tuning in and to those who called. And thank you, Martin, for taking time out of your night.
My pleasure.
Yeah. All right. Say bye to everybody, Martin.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, we'll see you next week, people.
See you next week, everybody.
Hello, Chattanooga. Famous people who have visited the Tennessee Valley. Features photos, stories, and complete listings of the entertainers, athletes, political leaders, and others who visited the area since 1900. Chattanooga has attracted some of the best-known celebrities in the world, thanks to our city's historic venues, beautiful scenery, and powerful people. Hello, Chattanooga features hundreds of restored photos, behind-the-scenes stories, and thousands of fully indexed entries spanning more than 700 pages. I'm David Carroll. I've worked in Chattanooga television and radio for more than 40 years. I also write a weekly newspaper column and have written 2 other books, Chattanooga Radio and Television, a photo history of Chattanooga media, and Volunteer Bama Dog, a TV guy's love letter to the South, a collection of my most popular stories. Hello Chattanooga is proudly published by Fresh Ink Group in a keepsake jacketed hardcover edition with full-color interior printing, softcover with black and white photos, and all-color ebook formats worldwide. Take a trip back in time, enjoy great memories, and maybe even settle an argument as you learn the dates and places that your favorite star, athlete, or president visited the Chattanooga area.
While all of Mississippi bakes in the scorching summer of 1925, sudden orphanhood wraps its icy embrace around Emily Ann Baby Teagarten, a pretty young teen. Taken in by an aunt bent on ridding herself of this unexpected burden, Baby Teagarten plots her escape using the only means at her disposal, a voice that brings church ladies to righteous tears and makes both angels and devils take notice. I'm going to New York City to sing jazz, she brags to anybody who'll listen. But the Big Apple, well, it's an awful long way from that dry patch of earth she's always called home. So when the smoky stages of New Orleans speakeasies give a whistle, offering all sorts of shortcuts, Emily Ann soon learns it's the whorehouses and opium dens that can sidetrack a girl and dim a spotlight. And knowing the wrong people can snuff it out. Jazz Baby just wants to sing, not fight to stay alive. Jazz Baby is available now in dust-jacketed hardcover, softcover, and all ebook editions worldwide. Jazz Baby by Beem Weeks is proudly published by Fresh Ink Group.
You've been a part of Voice of Indy, a production of Fresh Ink Group. Spread the word, support our guests, then find us at freshinkgroup.com and be sure to hashtag Fresh Ink Group.